Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Maxin TV. I'm your host, Max Landesman. We got a great one for you tonight. Special edition, personal finance for young adults, personal finance podcast. I've got a special guest, an extra special guest, my father, David Landesman, who is a vice president of wealth management for Union Bank of Switzerland, UBS, for years. He's been doing this overall for over 41 years. Currently retired. He managed over $250 million at one point, had 1,000 clients. If anyone knows anything about personal finance, it's definitely him. I'm so glad to have him on the show. This is really a special treat for everybody. We will be discussing how should I invest my money, personal financial advice for young adults. I don't know about personal advice, but financial advice for young adults, personal finance management tips, and how to manage money wisely. This is really a special one. I'm very happy that my dad was able to make it for the show. I hope you guys enjoy. Take it easy. I've got here a special guest. Most people on my show are special, but this in particular is extra special. I have my father here. It's weird to say David Landesman, but that is your name. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Absolutely. And we're going to be talking about personal finance, especially with young people, pre-corona, after corona. And if anybody knows anything about personal finance, it's definitely you. You have 41 years experience and you have a track record of essentially knowing how to manage money. So why don't we just get right to it? How do young people start managing their money, especially now with coronavirus?
Well, the first thing that people do when they're looking to manage money is to get their finances down on paper. I think everyone needs a budget. Everyone needs to see where they stand right now, and everyone needs to see where they're going in the future, whether it's a near future or a longer term future. The way people start when they invest money is they start to buy a little bit of stocks and bonds through either mutual funds, ETFs, individual stocks, and trading it is kind of difficult with the markets being as volatile as they are. And as the institutions being as strong as they are today, especially what I refer to as the flash boys, the people who run these computers all day. So what I would do first is I would take a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil, write down your budget, write down your income that's coming in, your expenses that's going out, and then you can see what's being left over that money is to invest. There are a lot of ways to start it. If you want to do it on the tax-deferred basis, the first thing I would do is probably start an IRA or some kind of a retirement plan. I know people have them at work. They have 401ks, but a lot of people are self-employed. They don't have 401ks. A lot of people have lost their job, unfortunately, due to the coronavirus. They're not in a position to make those contributions anymore. So your personal IRA is always the best way to go. And whatever you can afford, whatever it happens to be, that's a good way to accumulate money on a tax deferral basis. Also, many employers will match the contributions for the person on a dollar-for-dollar basis, sometimes a dollar for every $2, but they will match those contributions like free money, like getting money out of your boss. When your boss says, I'm not giving you a raise, he may still match your 401k contributions. So that's a very good way to start out. There is something else that people don't talk about lately, and something that was very popular in the early 80s. It was called Share Builder. Now, I've seen advertised by different companies. They're willing to buy shares or proportionate shares in different stocks for fractional shares. So if you have $10, $20, $50 to invest, you can buy through this program, which I don't know what they call it today. In my day, called a share builder, and you can buy 1, 2, 3, 4 stocks, 5 stocks, and they would proportionately give it out to 2 stocks, 3, 4, whatever you decided to pick, and you would start investing it that way. That is a way to do it. Of course, everyone uses the same 5, 6 stocks today that they want to invest in, which are pretty high price stocks. So putting $10, $15, $20 in some of these stocks can take you a long time to accumulate one share. Right. But it is a start. The other way to do it is people like to index. You find a good index fund, one that you, as you know, and start with initial investment, maybe $50 or $100. And then whenever you have money, just add to it. You see the market go down one day. Oh, today was a bad day. Good day to invest. The other thing you can do is find a mutual fund. And some of them take as little as $50. And you can dollar cost average over a long period of time. And just when you see markets are down, or when you have a little extra money, well, time to throw a couple of bucks in one of these things. So these are some of the entry level ways you can get in and learn about stocks and about bonds and about different markets as you're going forward.
Right, and especially to young people, it's probably like super. Even to older people, I mean, especially doctors. Even people who have money, they don't necessarily understand how this works and understand markets. They think that it's the market's a roller coaster. So as you said, mutual funds, or just if you can't do it yourself, find someone who can, right? And as you mentioned, you can get a mutual fund for as little as what, like $30 or whatever it is. And
some of them as little as $25 or $50.
Right. So, but like if you're a young person, you can look at different mutual funds on different platforms, and they can see what have they been doing for the last 10 years. Some average, let's say 10%, 5%, whatever it is. Some are negative, so you obviously want to stay away from those. Is there any other type of recommendations that you would give to a young person just starting out?
Well, the first thing I think a young person should do is get themselves some type of a mentor, some kind of an advisor, someone they can run ideas off. I know it's easy to do it today on a computer and go find a website, a financial website, or a platform that will help you, but there's nothing like human interaction when it comes to this. Whether you're doing it on a professional level with, let's say, someone of a high net worth individual would call their financial advisor, or somebody who doesn't have the money. Let's say the younger people today who don't have the money to pay a financial advisor. You have friends, you have relatives, you have people that retired financial advisors, and you can call them and ask them their opinion about which would be the best way to go for them, and set up whatever financial plan that they're looking to do, or if they're just investing some money, whether this would be a good idea at this particular time. And the final decision, of course, is up to them. But it's always good to bounce off ideas off someone else, because the other person may have a different way of looking at things that you do. They may be more aggressive, less aggressive, whatever the case may be. I mean, I was doing this now for 41 years.
That's it?
And I didn't, yeah, I know, I couldn't find regular work.
Gotcha.
And I had a financial advisor. And, barbers don't give themselves haircuts, and doctors don't operate on themselves. And financial advisors, if they're very good, will ask their partners, their associates, people around them, and say, what do you think about this? What do you think the market's going? What do you think about this particular area that I'm interested in investing in? And you can take their opinion or you can leave it, but it'll give you some food for thought on which way best to go.
Right. You can ask, financial advisors' sons. I mean, they do know a lot as well.
Oh, they're terrific. When it comes to them.
Oh, my recommendation did really pan out.
Yes, it has. Yes. No one knows better than you do, right?
There you go. No, 100%. I did learn it from someone, but I'm definitely a lot more risk adverse, or risk tolerant. I'm sorry, not risk averse. So what are the top three? Is there a top three most, challenging things for young people? Because considering rent is so exorbitant, especially from when you were a teenager or whatever, student loans, all of these things. How do you navigate all these problems?
This is a budgetary situation. There's something also in financial circles. It's called delayed gratification. And what I mean by delayed gratification is when you see that you can put away some money that ordinarily you couldn't. For example, let's say you're out there looking to lease a car, and there's cars that you could lease for $300 a month, and there's cars you can go out there and lease for $600 a month. And you have to ask yourself the question, does a $300 a month car do the same job as the $600 a month car? Okay, may not look as flashy, may not have all the bells and whistles, but if you could take that $300 that you save from the car and put it away for yourself and something that will grow, remember the rule of 72, very important rule to remember. When you invest money, for every you will get a double of your money just by 7% that you make on your money return. Your money will double in about 10 years. Okay, it's the rule of 72, 7.2 years actually. So with a $300 car suffice for your needs. If it does, then you really don't need a $600 car. It's called the delayed gratification. Somewhere down the road, when you have the money that your good investments made, and you say to yourself, not only will I lease a car for $600, I may even buy it. As far as debt is concerned, I'm very debt averse. I know people had to take out loans for college. They had to go to school. They took out loans for buying a home or for education or for medical expenses or whatever they need at the time. I'm not in favor of debt unless it's absolutely, positively imperative. For example, healthcare. If there's healthcare involved over and above what you need to have on your own, your health insurance or whatever, then that's something that you have to live with. If you needed a place to live and you decided you didn't want to rent, like I saw some of your previous interviews where you were talking about not buying the real estate, not renting. And you could take that money instead and putting it into a property where that you will build equity over time, then I think that's a good place to have debt. You put a down payment and you pay it out over time because the property inevitably will rise in value. Where I don't think that is good is when you have consumer debt. I have to have that $5,000 computer. I have to have that $10,000 vacation. I have to go on that $15,000 cruise. No, you don't. That's the debt that I'm referring to. That's the delayed gratification. So I think when you have to pay what you have to pay, it's unfortunate. Rent is very expensive, like you said. Student loans are really up there. I think someone has to take, an individual has to take a good hard look to see whether or not the money they are spending to take out loans and pay interest on those loans is really going to pay off in the future in terms of, will it bring me value? Will I be able to benefit from all this debt I'm taking on? And if you can answer the question as yes, then obviously you do it. But if you can answer the question as, well, I'm not really sure. Do I really need to go to a college that charges me $70,000 or $80,000 a year, or can I actually do it for $10,000 or $15,000 a year? That's a very tough question, and you really have to look very hard at whether or not you want to take on that amount of debt.
Well, all these lessons definitely passed to me because I went to a college where not only I was not paying $70,000 a year, 100%, I worked at the college and got half off. I think my entire degree cost me 20 grand.
Right, and you also have a
and I also
MBA.
bought a car, 0% interest. Remember that we made that deal? We got that deal.
That's right.
Now I own a car. I still have it.
You have your car free and clear.
Free and clear.
You have a bachelor's and a master's degree, free and clear.
Free and clear. Because
you learn certain principles of debt. Debt is a very dirty word unless it's absolutely necessary.
Right.
So if that's the case, then you learned very well. Very well.
I had a good financial advisor.
I wonder who.
Right, 100%. And so, yeah, because I think the top two things that millennials do, it's hard for me to even talk about millennials, given the fact that I'm a millennial. I don't consider myself a true millennial, but I feel like I was born in the 60s, really. But true millennials, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of social, there's a lot of social impacts of they want to go to a concert that costs $400 for a ticket, and they want to travel. They want to travel the world, right? What do you have to say about that?
the two things that millennials really are into today, this is pre-coronavirus, obviously, is they were into travel and they were into entertainment. So when you take, let's say there's a couple that's going to Disney World, and after you pay your admission, and then you have hotels and travel expenses and food expenses, and you're there 2, 3, 4 days, and you run up a bill of, I don't know, $2,000-$3,000 for whatever it happens to be, with everything included. And then you finish that 2, 3, 4 day visit, and you say, wow, $2,000 for this trip, for the hotels and admissions and food and, traveling to get down there. I mean, it's quite a lot of money. But let's not even take that for example. Let's do the day-to-day living things. Example, you like a good cup of coffee in the morning. I do as well. I enjoy it.
Right.
And you go into a coffee place down, on the way to work, and your coffee is running you $3 for regular coffee. And if you buy anything special, you have a latte or you have a cappuccino or whatever, you're looking at $4 or $5 on these specialty coffees. And if you do that every single day for a long time, that adds up to a lot of money. I'm not saying you shouldn't have your coffee. I mean, you can go to Costco and buy Starbucks pods or Green Mountain pods for, 40, 50 cents a piece, and get a Keurig and just make it at home and carry it with you. Lunch every day. When people went to the office, pre-coronavirus, of course, lunch was, I don't know, $10, $12, $15, whatever it happened to be. And that adds up too. So millennials, when it comes to these things, because I used to sit in the office, I see people carrying these specialty coffees, and I said, what kind of coffee do you have? I have a double espresso with soy latte. And I said, how much did that cost you? Oh, it was cheap, $6, $7.
Right.
A good deal. And even if you do it twice a week or 3 times a week, $12, $15 every week. And money that you could have put in your pocket by just buying some pods.
Right.
So this is the basics. This is the way to put some money in your pocket, as opposed to just, spending on any little whim that you decide you want to do.
I believe Kevin O'Leary said famously that if he saw someone working in his office, like a millennial walking around holding a cup of Starbucks, he'd fire him. Legitimately, he's like, you can't afford it. You cannot afford to pay for Starbucks every single day and work. He doesn't want that kind of mindset in his office. He doesn't even spend on Starbucks,
Warren Buffett had a great line once. He said, the money management business was the only business where people with Rolls Royce would drive to the offices of people who got there by subway.
Right. 100%.
Right. So it's the guy with the Rolls Royce is not buying the $7 cups of coffee. I can guarantee you that. The guy who's sitting there trying to manage that guy's money is buying the $7 cup of coffee. So that's the difference. And people, I mean, this is just one little item. This is not, these are the I have to have it kind of things. No, you don't have to have it. You can live without it. And
right.
And there are people, I've seen some stories on different financial websites of younger people. As a matter of fact, you told me a case where there was a football player making, I know, over $20 million a year, living in a basement apartment of his parents' house.
$27 million salary.
Right.
He was living in the basement of his parents. I mean, that's a little excessive. I think that's a little excessive, but he's known for being cheap as hell. Wow.
I'm not saying to be cheap as hell. What I'm trying to say is there's a balance. I mean, people do have to live. They have to eat. They have to take care of their clothing, take care of themselves. I'm not saying not. But on the other hand, to throw it all out because you decide that you need this on a daily basis, that's the point of it. Now, this is a little on the excessive side, making $27 million in the year, which most people, I would say 95% of the people, don't get anywhere near this in their entire lifetime.
Right.
Living in his parents' basement apartment to save money on rent.
Right. The line is, you can't spend money when you don't have it, period.
Right.
Then, I mean, you can tell everyone better than I can, then you're going to accumulate debt when it's completely unnecessary. And then God forbid, when a pandemic happens, when you really need to go into debt because there really is no choice, you might have lost your job, then you really get screwed. Right?
Well, I always tell people, young people or older people, when I was involved in this industry, the first thing you need to do is open a savings account or a money market account of some kind and put away, depending upon the particular job you do. If your job is a little bit more stable, let's say you had a job like an accountant. So if you're an accountant or an attorney, your job is a little bit more stable than, let's say, somebody who is working on commission or salesperson, right, or somebody middle management.
Or works in marketing, because that's, you know.
So I would tell them, put aside 6 months worth of your expenses in the bank and let it sit there. And I know you're not making anything now. Those days you made some interest. But I would tell them to put away the 6 months. So in case of an emergency, such as a pandemic, I never even gave it any thought to that, but there was an emergency in your life, you would be able to draw on funds that you normally would not be able to draw on. Now, if you're on sales commission, if you're working selling real estate, or you're selling cars, or you're selling furniture or whatever, and I would tell that person to put aside a year to a year and a half, because they could be out of work much longer. And since they're working on commission now, as you can see during the pandemic, a number of businesses not only closed temporarily, they closed permanently, because they basically ran out of funds, literally ran out of funds. And to your knowledge and to your accomplishment, people who had leases that came due during the pandemic, and the landlord says, we're going to raise your rent by so much and so much, and they did not ever buy that building or even consider buying the real estate, they are now forced to pay a very large increase in rent. And they say, there is no way, my business is shut down, I don't have money to pay increases, I can barely pay my rent now. And you could see from what's going on here that these businesses are no longer in business. So putting aside money for emergencies is number one on the list of whether you're a millennial or whether you're middle management or whether you're an older person. 6 months to a year, money in the bank should always be there. And after it's depleted, that money should be replenished. That should be the first line of defense in case of an emergency.
Yeah, I mean, you know as well as anyone, for how long have I been against paying rent as a business? I've been against this forever. You
said it publicly.
I said it. I had a whole video on it, but
Right.
You know, someone might say, "Oh, well, you just came out with it now." I've been saying this forever. Especially, right. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying to a business who just opened their first business, they're in their first year, they don't know what they're doing. I'm talking about businesses that have been there 10, 15 years. They're not. They know they're established. Everyone likes them. Buy the damn building. What the hell are you doing? You're paying rent and it just keeps going up and up and up. And I mean, how much can you charge on a slice of pizza?
Right.
Right.
Well, it depends on where the location is and where. Now, if you're in the middle of a downtown neighborhood, buying the building would probably be a little bit difficult, especially right now. But maybe in another location, you could look to move the business and maybe buy the building, and you wouldn't have. And if you have a good following, if you're a certain business, I mean, you know, and I know there are certain restaurants and certain establishments are out there that their loyal following will go anywhere they go, because there are places that today, restaurants and bars and everything, that are so out of the main area of the city, but people still go there because they love their service, they love the food and the drink there and the atmosphere, and they don't care where they are.
Right. How many restaurants, Peter Luger's, for example, it's probably, I mean, apparently it's rated, we both have never been there, obviously, but it's been rated as the #1 steakhouse in the world. Guess where that is? Look where it is. In the middle of freaking nowhere. Nobody wants to get it.
It's at the base of a bridge in Brooklyn on a corner. And they've been there for, I don't know, 50, 60 years, maybe longer.
Yeah.
And all right, the New York Times had a bad review about him. The guy probably steak got cold when he brought it out. But for the most part, before the pandemic, there was 2-month wait to get into the place.
You got
So,
clients who went there and said it was unbelievable, right?
right, people drive. They drive from the city just to go to Peter Luger's.
All CEOs come in their Rolls Royces, go down there, go to Peter Luger's, and go home.
Not the guys that are working for them, just the CEOs.
Right. There we go. And so back to the point of, you got to save 6 months or a year, whatever it is. So for people who say like, well, I don't have the money to save, I know you have a personal story with clients who were janitors. Legitimately, I think each of them made $7,000. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, I can tell you a story that happened back in 1978 when I originally started. There was a gentleman who called me up and he needed to see me right away. And I went over to his house. He had a beautiful home here in Miami. And he said to me, he says, I need $43,000 right away. And here he had a beautiful car in the driveway. He had a beautiful home. And I said to him, why do you need this money so fast? He says, well, I'm having business problems. I'm having this problem. I haven't got any money now. And I need this money. I need you to liquidate something for me and get me that check. I said, fine, we will take care of it. He got his money. Number of months later, I went to visit a couple. The man was a janitor in a garden apartment, and his wife was a phone operator for, get this, Bell South.
There you go.
They had phone operators. And they had a very, very modest apartment in a very modest section of Miami. And I went over to their home to talk with them about their investments. And I explained something to them. And I said, we're missing something in this area. Maybe we can invest in this area. And the couple said, we like this. She says, we have $125,000 to invest. Could we put that in there? I said, yes, you can. It's relatively stable and you don't have to worry about it. Now, I want to let you know, when I walked into their apartment, I literally had to walk over cans and bottles and newspapers because they were hoarding this stuff for forever. And between the two of them that year, they made, I think, $12,000 or $13,000. But they had $125,000 to invest. And the guy with the fancy car and the fancy house needed $43,000. There's a book out that you can buy on Amazon and your viewers can watch. It's called The Millionaire Next Door. It explains the whole thing. How you'll see somebody with the fancy car and the fancy house and the Brioni suit. And when you go to a lunch for like $25, he's going to say to you, he says, oh, I left my wallet at home. You think you can take care of the check? And you end up with the check. And then again, you'll go out with people that you would like to give them $1 for a cup of coffee. And he takes out his American Express Platinum card, or he takes out a wad of cash and he pays for your lunch. Yeah. So don't judge a book by its cover. There are financial principles that are followed by a lot of people that have done exceedingly well in wealth and wealth management, both on the personal level and also on the professional level. And these are the people that you want to emulate as time goes on.
Right. I mean, I know, obviously, over the years, you've told me, you wouldn't give me the names, obviously, but you told me some of the, clients that you've had. One particular woman who you can confuse for a homeless person who is driving like a 25-year-old beaten down car with, I think she put garbage bag over the back left window because it was broken. She had $4 million with you.
More like 7.
More like $7 million. Well, it probably started with 4. Now it's 7.
Right. And the night out for her was a hamburger at McDonald's. it was, everybody's to their own. And by the way, the only reason she got rid of that car is because she was in a car accident and the car got smashed to pieces.
Gotcha.
And she had to go out and buy another car. So, but she was in a different reason. She was deathly afraid that she was going to run out of money. She only had like $7 million, and she was worried she would run out of money.
Right.
So, also, you have to live too. I mean, nobody says you shouldn't go on vacation.
Excessive case, right?
Yeah, nobody says you shouldn't live in a nice place and wear nice clothes and whatever. But there's a balance of which way to go. And if you can delay something because you really look around saying, do I really need this? Can I get along without this? And if you can answer that question, yes, then don't buy it. And these people who you see with the bags on the back of the car, I mean, I can't really promote something like that. But those people you see with the bags on the car and having a birthday dinner at McDonald's, I mean, that's a little excessive.
Right.
But have in mind that certain amount of financial, acumen, I think it's called, with your money is a very important thing to do in your life. And it doesn't matter what your age is. You can be 15 years old or 115 years old. The same principles apply.
Right. So back to trading. So a lot of millennials are, it is showing that they are trading a lot more now. As you watch CNBC all the time. You get like the experts on there, and they're like, I have no idea what the hell is going on. It's a lot of it's from millennials trading because they see Portnoy on there, David Portnoy, get on there and start trading. A lot of millennials would trade on what they hear of companies that they know, not necessarily of what the company actually does in terms of like, does it make a profit? You know what I mean? So what do you have any words of wisdom for those people?
CNBC is beginning to talk about placing bets on stocks. Now, if you're a hedge fund, or if you're a very aggressive money manager, a qualitative manager, and they're talking about placing bets, I would tell millennials that if you really want to place a bet, TVG runs horse races 7 days a week. And you can place your bet and get an instant gratification in approximately a minute and a half. If you want to build wealth, which is what the great investors in life have done, the Warren Buffetts of the world and some of these other hedge fund managers, you take good companies, good quality companies, and whatever you can afford to buy, put it into that company. If you think that company has prospects for the next 10 or 20 or 30 years, that's where you want to be. I will give you an example of one particular stock. I will not mention the name of the stock. An investment going back since 1984. A $500 investment in 1984 with nothing touched, dividends all reinvested, no in and out, no selling, no addition to the $500. That was the entire investment. Is today worth little north of $55,000. Now, that to me is a home run. Now, it's true, it's a long period of time. I grant you that. But that's how wealth is created, through long periods of time. Making bets and doing the David Portnoy type stocks are good for having a good time.
Yeah.
If you want to have a good time, you want to see if you can make a quick buck, knock yourself out. Are you going to create wealth doing that? No. I can guarantee you that he probably loses more times than he wins. And don't forget, we are in an up market. Do you imagine what it is when you see a bear market, a down market? Therefore, it's even worse in the down market. But if you're holding something good for a long period of time, regardless of market conditions, good, bad, or indifferent, and the company prospers over that time, there is a lot of money to be made in good, solid, quality companies.
Right. Like a way Buffett does it is, before even looking at the balance sheets or any of that, just ask yourself, is this a good company? Do you see this company lasting for the next 10, 15 years? And if the answer is yes, yeah, it's definitely something to look more into. And chances are, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, that if you invest in that company, chances are you're going to end up making money.
100% correct. Warren Buffett has done that. He says, I'm buying a business. I'm not buying a stock. I'm buying into a business. True, does he lose? Yes, he does. But I can guarantee you he's won a lot more than he's lost.
Right.
And over the years, when you accumulate in the area of $70 billion, it's not because you were not a good investor, and not because you did trading in and out, or you went online and pressed a button at 10 o'clock and at 10:01 you were out of the stock because you made $32.50. Warren Buffett didn't do that. He bought it, he left it alone, and he said, let the managers of the company do their business, and I'm going to invest in their business. And that's what he did. For those today, the millennials that want to do something like that, they can do it on individual stocks. They can do it through a mutual fund, even if they don't want to pick the stocks. They can buy an ETF in a specific area or in specific stocks that they like, or they can just buy an index fund and just add money to your index fund. You're buying 500 stocks. Those stocks are going to be good somewhere down the road. You'll make a nice return over time, and your money will do well. And you can do it for a small amount of money. So like I said, if you really want to make bets, TVG will more than happy to take your money. And you can get on there even when you come home from work. You get on there and you can bet all the horses and anything you want. But and DraftKings will take your money, and Penn National Gaming will take your money. They're more than that. And there's plenty. If you're in certain states, I think New Jersey, you can bet online in the casinos. So if you want to bet, that's one thing. If you want to invest, that's something else altogether.
Right. I don't know if we can even touch on this, but there are like percentages in terms of, let's say you invest in, the S&P or whatever. There are percentages in terms of you hold it. The longer you hold it, the chances of you making money are like exceedingly higher, like ridiculously higher. Could you touch on that at all, or that's more?
Yes. There was a study done maybe 20, 25 years ago by a big mutual fund company about mutual funds in general. And people say today, well, the managers can't beat the index. Well, a lot of them can't. It's true. But a lot of them do. But you got to go find them. Well, anyway, regardless whether they beat the index or they don't beat the index, if you're in a halfway decent mutual fund, which most mutual funds are pretty good, the chance of you making money over a 5-year time, according to this study, was 74%. And if you stayed in that fund for 10 years, your chances of making money were 98%. And if you stayed in for 15 years, the chance of you making money was 100%. Now, those odds seem pretty good to me, even in mediocre funds, even ones that don't beat the index year in and year out. Which ones to invest in, that's up to the individual and their risk tolerance and their objectives and what they're looking to do. But the fact is, those odds are better than you're going to get anywhere else in any other type of investment. The S&P index, for the most part, we have a bull market can run on average of about 8 years. I think a bear market lasts about 18 months. So the chances of you making money over a period of time is better than losing money. Of course, selling during a bear market isn't the greatest thing in the world either. You can get emotional. My money is evaporating. The market's going to crash. I'm going down. Get out. Well, you should be thinking the other way around. You should be thinking, well, the market's going down. Things are getting cheaper. Maybe it's a good time to buy something. So if it's good in good times and bad times. If it's bad, it's never any good. So you should actually think backwards. This is the only business I know is when we mark things up, everybody wants to buy it. When things are getting cheaper, nobody wants to buy it. So you knew that from experience.
Right. And so, I mean, we could definitely also talk about, everyone's got something to say. We both know an individual who shorted Amazon when it was $17. For people who don't know what shorting is, you're essentially betting against the stock. Amazon's trading at over $3,000 a share today.
A little under right now.
A little under $3,000 a share. He shorted it at $17. So in all essence, he lost a fortune. Now, on the flip side, if he would have bought the stock and just let it be, he'd be a millionaire. Why did he do that? You remember, he took advice from a guy at the deli counter.
That's right.
Against people at deli counters, but
you mean to tell me a guy at the deli counter doesn't know about the market?
I know.
How could that be?
I'm as shocked as you are. I'm as shocked as you are.
I would be. I was really shocked when the guy didn't give him the right stock. I mean, I really.
And so I just think it's very important to note that with millennials, you're going to have a million people say, oh, you got to invest in this, you got to invest in that. Who the hell are they?
The best thing a person can do for their own knowledge is one word. That's all I have to tell you. is how you're going to find good stocks. And that one word is read. Whether you read the paper, whether you read books, magazines, research reports, whatever, blogs, whatever it happens to be, then go and do your homework. Then go check it out. Jim Cramer always says it on Mad Money. He says, go do your homework. I remember one of the vice presidents of one of the firms that I worked for came down because an investment they had promoted did not do well. And the financial advisors in the firm were not too happy about it. And he said, don't blame us. It's your job to kick the tires. So when you go and buy a car, you go look up Consumers Reports, you go to Kelley Blue Book, and you go to True Value, and you look up all the things, you do your research before you go into the dealer. Well, guess what? You think you're going to get a stock because while you were getting a haircut, your barber decided he was going to recommend a stock to you? Forget about it. You know, if he gets it, you like the stock that he gave you, go and do some research. Read up on it. Find reports. Go look at charts. Read about it. There's the financial information today is vast. It's tremendous. There's no shortage. You have it right on you don't even have to go to the library. It's right in your hand, on your phone, on your computer, on your iPad, wherever you want it, it's available. Go check it out. That's what I keep telling people. Don't just listen to somebody telling you, oh, this company's going out of business, I would short it, right? How do you know? You know, because the guy in the deli counter told you, or your barber told you? You know, that's the problem.
And there's always ulterior motives. You know, not to blame anyone, but sometimes people go on TV and say one thing. It's because they have a position there, so they're telling people to do one thing. Meanwhile, he's making a fortune because you know, if he shorted it, he's telling people to short it too, or whatever it is. Sometimes you gotta read through the lines that maybe somebody has an ulterior motives besides to try to help you.
You're 100% correct. Now, today they have this full disclosure, and when they do that on television, they are supposed to tell you whether or not they have any conflicting interests in that stock. Years ago, and I'm talking about 30 years ago, money managers used to come on and play what they call the pump and dump routine. What they did was they told you XYZ company is the greatest thing since sliced bread. They're going to cure cancer and go to the moon all at the same time. And if you're not in the stock, just get a second mortgage and put it all in the stock. And while you were out there buying the stock, he was selling into your buying. And the next day, when he pumped up that stock, and you see, you get up in the morning, you see some stock, some $2 stock is up $10, and you say, what happened? What did they discover? Well, nothing. Somebody pumped it somewhere on the internet, and the next thing you know, they're all up, and everybody jumps on the bandwagon, and maybe the stock will go up to $12, $13, $14. The next thing you know, it's 32 cents by the end of the week. So you're right. There are people who have ulterior motives, and they do that to try to sucker you in. And next thing you know, you're holding the bag and you're out a lot of money.
100%. 100%. The Wolf of Wall Street was great at that, pump and dumps. No?
He did pump and dump, yes. He did something else, though. He used to buy what they call IPOs, initial public offerings, and pay 10 cents a share to the company and resold it to his clients for $2. Great markup if you can get it. And he did that for a long time until that Ponzi scheme fell apart too. So that's a different pump and dump. The one I'm talking about is guys get on TV and they promote their own particular interests.
Right. Just right before we end, is there anything you'd like to end off with or say for millennials out there?
Well, there's an old saying from an old television show there was an old television show back, I guess, in the 80s called Hill Street Blues. And there was a sergeant there, Sergeant Esterhaus. And the last thing he used to tell his patrolmen when they went out to patrolmen says, let's be careful out there. I tell all the millennials, when you're out there investing, let's be careful out there.
Yep.
Don't think you're making bets. You're not making bets because there's somebody out there who is quicker and smarter than you are. And they see your trades and they know how to manipulate them. The ones that the flash boys and the hedge funds and the managers cannot manipulate is the long-term investor. When you're in something good and you don't trade it up and down, there's nothing they can do to stop you from making money, because that stock or that fund or that index, whatever you're investing in, is going to do well over a period of time. So for those of you who are trading and going in and going out, let's be careful out there. And for those of you who are going out for the long term, good luck, because you're going to be very rich one day.
Here we go. And just to end off, though, those two of your clients who were janitors at $125,000 to invest, what year was that again?
That was 1978.
1978, and they invested it. How much? I mean, I don't know if they're around anymore now, but how much do you think, on a realistic basis, that would be worth today?
Well, I guess if it was put into the S&P 500, just figure the money will double every 7.2 years. No, actually, every 10 years, excuse me. If you got 7.2%, it would double every 10 years. So we're looking at 40, 42 years thereabouts. So figure it out. It probably was 2, 3, 4 doubles, if my math is correct. I don't know, but probably, well past $500,000. Well past $500,000.
Well, you don't think it would even get into the millions? I think it definitely.
Well, it's probably about 4 times, 5 times their money, something in that neighborhood. So after 42 years, probably more. If they just made 7%, imagine if it made more. It could have made more. There was a decade when the decade from 2000 2009 was very poor. It was a very bad decade.
Sure.
The rest of the decades were pretty good. So I would imagine they probably did very, very well.
It just goes to show you just the importance of investing, saving money, and it doesn't even matter how much you technically make for a salary. You can always save money. You can always invest. You can always read up on it, and to level the playing field for everybody. You shouldn't think that just because you don't have $1 million today that you can't do this.
I once learned there's only 3 ways to get rich in America. There's entrepreneurship, which I'm sure you've spoken with a lot of big entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs. There is compound interest, which today, unfortunately, is very, very low. So that probably doesn't work today. And the other way is in investing. And those people who invest in good, profitable businesses over a long period of time. And when I say long period, I mean a minimum of 10 years, preferably longer than that. And when I'm talking to millennials, in their early 20s or even before, and they've got years, decades to go before they'll ever even need that money. So I would tell these people, just stay the course, add to positions when markets are down, if they're good quality companies and they're doing well. And remember that there's very few ways to make money. Working isn't one of them. Working will get you your living, will pay your expenses. But investing will make your wealth for you.
Right. Words of wisdom. Dad, thank you very much for being on a show. Could not have asked for anything more. You're welcome back anytime. And yeah, we'll just end off like that. And I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you very much, and all the best.
Absolutely.